I would like to start our press conference and present our crew members, prime crew, commander of the Soyuz TMA-15M, Anton Shkaplerov, cosmonaut of the Russian Federation, flight engineer of the Soyuz vehicle and ISS flight engineer Samantha Cristoforetti, European Space Agency, Italy, Virts, flight engineer of Soyuz and commander of ISS Increment 43. The next backup crew, Oleg Kononenko, Soyuz commander, Kimia Yui, a flight engineer of the vehicle, flight engineer of the ISS JAXA, Japan, and Kyo Lindgren, flight engineer of the ISS and Soyuz vehicle, United States of America. Dear colleagues, please proceed with your questions to the crew members. Good afternoon. Kovalov Alexander, RIA Novosti. First of all, we would like to extend our heartfelt congratulations to the crew members with the crew assignment. Question to the commander of the prime crew. What are you going to be the feeling, what are you going to have the zero-G indicator, the talisman, and how many EVAs are you planning for your increment? Please speak to the microphone. According to our standard tradition, we take the zero-G indicator, a talisman. It's been going through the certification. It's going to be a little snowman from the Frozen cartoon. My youngest daughter is 8 years old, and she selected that as a talisman. There are no plans to perform Russian EVAs during our increment. If you allow me, I'm going to let my crew member, Terry Virts, talk about the 2 or maybe even 4 EVAs he's going to do. Talking about the U.S. segment EVAs a little bit, but I'm going to speak English.
Primary spacewalks that we're scheduled to do on Expedition 42 will be to prepare the station for the future American piloted vehicles that will be coming in a few years. We also have some maintenance tasks for the robotic arm that we will do and some other small unit replacements on the station. But the main task is to get ready for future American piloted vehicles.
I would like to congratulate you on the completion of the main complicated part of your training. I'd like to ask Anton and your colleagues to talk about some details of the science program. Also, another question: if there's no EVA, why is there training prepared for Roscosmos, the satellite launch? Well, the training we were going through was scheduled in case the required equipment does arrive. Roscosmos, that would be an old Oral 1 space suit that has already run its usable life. To install a microsatellite made by Russian students and international students, so we can orbit the Earth until it burns up in the atmosphere. We can do that experiment. In any case, we went through the entire required EVA training in case something happens or something needs to be repaired or taken from the outside of the station. We're basically ready for an EVA. The science program is very intense. I remember my flight about a year ago. 2 of us were doing 50 science experiments. Now just myself will be doing 50 experiments. over 200 experiments are run on the station overall by our partners. They cover various areas. Of course, these are experiments, space research, humans in space, various materials in space, technologies for space exploration, and popularization of the space exploration and technologies. This is a broad range, as you can see, covered by various experiments on board of the stations. I like that as compared to the previous flight. We're doing more science research. The station is fully operational as a utilization station. We're doing what we're spending money to fly into space and spending taxpayers' money.
Говорю чуть-чуть по-английски.
I will say a few words in English.
So the American segment, as well as the European and Japanese segments, also have a very involved scientific program with more than 150 experiments on our side. We do all different scientific disciplines, even astronomy, material science, physics. The human physiology, I think, is one of the most interesting things we do. We'll be using, and one of the many experiments we'll be doing, we will use an ultrasound machine as well as other instruments to take an image of our heart, our brain, and our eyes. So it's very interesting to learn about the human body that way. And I'll let Samantha add a few words also about the science program.
Ну, Терри, конечно, на основном все объяснил.
Of course, most of the explanations were already provided. I would like to also add that I'm also representing the European and Italian space agencies, and particularly the Italian Space Agency for my flight selected a number of experiments that I'm going to run. Most of those experiments are studying myself, my brain, impact of zero gravity on return blood flow from my brain to heart, then studying the quality of sleep, how the brain can control motion in space, and there are also several other technological experiments. There will be a machine that's going to make espresso. And there will be a small 3D printer. There is a, how does it sound in Russian? Tatiana Pchelina, 360-degree television channel. Samantha, a question for you. This is your first flight. What are your expectations?
Мы думаем, это будет очень
We believe that it's going to be a complex experience. I think I need to understand as a whole. I don't expect little experiences from this flight. In 6 months, I will turn myself into a person who can work successfully, calmly in space. It will be interesting to see what new things happen.
Спасибо. Прошу, пожалуйста, коллеги.
Okay, dear colleagues, TASS Press Agency, a question to Anton and Samantha, because Jerry already mentioned the most interesting ISS experiments, but maybe he can add something else. What are the science experiments you personally consider most interesting?
Ну, вы знаете, у нас есть даже какие-то, я бы сказал, скучные эксперименты.
Well, we have some, I wouldn't even say boring experiments. They're included in the program as well.
Засчитывали нам.
Most interesting, I consider educational programs. We can show how microgravity is impacting certain physiological or chemical processes. I'm going to have a number of experiments where I'm going to show how zero gravity is going to impact a polymer structure. We can get a perfect sphere. You won't be able to see that on the ground. These are specific experiments. I'm going to provide writing commentary and some videos that are going to be run in schools. How we're going to show how the microgravity is affecting different processes. It's interesting that when you come back to the ground, that work I have completed on board, and my children and friends' children can see that. As a matter of fact, we have already talked about it a lot. I am most interested in Italian Space Agency experiments, not just because they're Italian, but because I was able to participate in selecting those experiments several years ago. In some cases, I even participated in the development of these experiments on the ground prior to those experiments being launched to space, so I feel closely connected to them. And of course, that's why they're more interesting to me, but all experiments are interesting in terms of discovering something new. That is always an interesting experience. Anna Krasanova, Roscosmos Television Studio. You are an honorary citizen of Vladivostok. Are you going to bring a symbol? Well, of course, I cannot fly and not take something from my homeland. I brought some flags and symbols from the city. During the first flight, I gave the symbols from my home school. Today, I'm going to bring the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol, their flags. I'm going to bring the Navy flag with me. It's going to be part of me that's going to be in the cabin. It's going to remind me where I grew up. Okay, thank you. Please proceed. Good afternoon, Andrei Yuzhov, Krylov TV station. Question to Samantha. It's a first time that there will be two female cosmonauts on board of the ISS. Have you met and interacted with Elena Sirova? Here or at Star City? And question to the other crew. Of course, I know all the crew members I'm going to be on board with very well. As a matter of fact, I had very few opportunities to train together with Elena. We're not closely familiar, but of course, I know her as I know all other crew members. I can add that I worked with Elena a lot, even though she joined the Cosmonaut Corps a little bit later. I saw how well she works, that she was very well trained for her flight, and she understands the entire enormity of the responsibility, and she has been feeling comfortable from the very first day. And the wonderful video greetings from on board of the ISS they're sending, we understand that the crew as a team are well put together. They called us a couple of days ago. We're looking forward to seeing them. Thank you. Let's speak some Italian now. Please proceed.
Visto che siete arrivati alla fine di questo lungo periodo di addestramento, qual è la cosa che ricorderai con maggior piacere e quella che ricorderai con meno piacere di questo lungo periodo di addestramento?
Sono domande difficili naturalmente, perché cercare di trovare qualcosa che sia meglio o peggio di altre esperienze in un periodo di addestramento così lungo è praticamente impossibile, ce ne sono tantissime. Poi le circostanze ti suggeriscono una risposta, è chiaro, siamo qui alla Città delle Stelle, quindi è chiaro che sei molto vicina con questa esperienza di aver passato molti mesi, se non anni, qui alla Città delle Stelle. È stata un'esperienza bellissima, ma non meno interessante. Sono state l'esperienza a Houston in Giappone e sicuramente non c'è nessuna esperienza che ricordo con dispiacere.
Спасибо. Так, прошу, пожалуйста.
Thank you. Please proceed. Next. Sevastopol. A question to the commander. Two crew members are flying for the first time. It's almost winter. How are you going to perform the traditional landing at Baikonur? Nobody's going to violate the tree planting tradition. Nobody's at Baikonur. All astronauts, all cosmonauts who were flying in Russian vehicles and launching from Baikonur, they were planting trees, and Samantha and Terry will plant their tree. Local personnel know how to plant the trees in such a cold time of the year and make sure that the trees grow very well. This is a desert area, and all these trees are sort of an oasis in the middle of Baikonur land.
Crew members Terry Virts, Anton Shkaplerov, and Samantha Cristoforetti, can you talk about your qualification exams last week, particularly in the Soyuz, and what kind of challenges you faced and how you worked together as a team? And for Samantha, if you could answer please in English and Italian.
So the examination process in Russia is different than we do at NASA. The whole crew reports into a commission, and the commander chooses a card, and on that card is written all of the neshtatные ситуации, all the off-nominal situations that we have. And so we do the entire process from launch to docking to landing, but the crew has done so many sims together, and I was very lucky to fly with Anton and Samantha, who basically know everything by heart. And so the exams went very well for our crew. They did a great job.
I can only add about the off-nominal situations we had for the vehicle. We had the atmosphere purification unit malfunction and BO at the first stage. At the ascent and docking with station, we had a course malfunction that enables the vehicle to dock to the station. So we had to take over and perform control manually. So Samantha and myself performed an excellent docking. And after lunch, when we were running the descent simulation, we had a main thruster, rotary burn thruster failure SKD. We switched to smaller DPO thrusters, rendezvous and docking thrusters, and we landed successfully and had an excellent grade. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Well, everything has been said. The only thing I'd like to add is that, you show up in the morning, you report to the commission, and there's like 5 envelopes in front of you. And each envelope contains the exam scenarios. And of course, some envelopes are more difficult than the other ones. And one of the most difficult ones is the fire, because it's demanding in terms of the actions you have to do, but it's also demanding because it's physically, it gets hard, it's physically challenging. So the backup crew reports on the first day for the Soyuz exam, and then on the second day, when the prime crew shows up, there's only 4 envelopes left. When we were backup, we were nice enough to pick the fire scenario on our backup day, so the prime crew didn't have to deal with that. And I have to thank our backup crew because they did the same for us. They happened to pick the fire scenario, and so we went into our exam knowing that at least we would not have any fire. In Italian, right? il nostro esame per la Soyuz è andato molto bene. Funziona così in Russia: la mattina verso le 8:20, già con la tuta addosso, ci si presenta alla commissione e si scelgono 5 buste che sono chiuse, una di 5 buste che sono chiuse e ognuna di quali contiene uno scenario d'esame con tutta una serie di avarie che si dovranno affrontare. E la cosa simpatica è che il giorno prima l'equipaggio di riserva fa questo esame e quindi si ritrova 5 buste da cui sceglierne una. Il giorno dopo, quando l'equipaggio principale, il prime crew, si presenta all'esame, ci sono soltanto 4 buste. E tra questi scenari c'è sempre uno scenario di incendio, che è quello, diciamo, più temuto, più complicato, sia per le procedure di risposta al problema, all'avaria, sia anche perché fisicamente non è molto confortevole, si suda molto, diventa molto caldo. E quando noi siamo stati l'equipaggio di riserva 6 mesi fa, abbiamo preso la busta con l'incendio, quindi il giorno dopo l'equipaggio prime sapeva che non avrebbe avuto questa busta, quindi sono andati anche più sollevati al loro esame, e devo davvero ringraziare il nostro equipaggio di backup, che ha fatto a noi lo stesso favore. Loro il primo giorno hanno preso la busta con l'incendio, quindi noi sapevamo che non avremmo avuto questo scenario. Comunque naturalmente abbiamo avuto anche noi le nostre emergenze da affrontare e devo dire l'esame è andato davvero bene, quindi siamo molto soddisfatti.
Хорошо. Большое спасибо. Прошу, Екатерина.
Thank you very much. Proceed, Ekaterina. I have a question. It might seem strange, but I would like to ask you, at what point did you decide you wanted to be a cosmonaut? Wanted to fly into space. Was it a romantic motivation, or did you want to go to the next level because you were highly qualified pilots and wanted to excel professionally on a new level? So at what point did you make that decision, and when? As a matter of fact, I have been dreaming of becoming a cosmonaut since my childhood, so it was not a difficult decision to make. As soon as I had an opportunity, I decided to join the Corps. I also decided back in my childhood that I wanted to be an astronaut. I was reading Neil Armstrong and about Apollo program. When I was very little, I knew I wanted to be an astronaut. I would also join my crew members that I wanted to be a cosmonaut since I was little. I was going step by step. I was increasing the speed of my flight and the altitude, and I think my dream came true. It's now my work. Thank you very much. Colleagues, do you have any more questions to the crew members? Please proceed. Vladimir Lomakin, Kaliningradskaya Pravda. What is the call sign? Astray is the call sign. The commander usually Astray. It's a Titan, a god that created, a deity that created the starry night sky. He took the stars and spread them out, and we see that beautiful sky at night. Thank you. Any more questions? No questions? Could you please pose for the cameras? Could you put your other hand on top? Good job. We took a good look, and the first recording on November 6th, the previous entry was left 4 decades ago by your predecessors. If you can write it in Italian, it would even be better, and you can write something in English.
Benissimo.
And French.
We're just watching that and thinking for a museum collection to of something from you.
Thank you. I'm taking the photograph. One more time.
This eraser and the book, well, taken also spectacles he took with him when he went on business to cosmodromes. And right close to it, you see wristwatch taken by Yuri to space, Yuri Gagarin.
Evil stretches around the world here. It does. It needs to be. What's the Navy commercial? Global Force for Good. We need to be bigger.
Dobrovolsky and Volkov. They died when they were returning to Earth.
Virts, International Space Station, Expedition 42 Flight Engineer, Expedition 43 Commander. We're here at Red Square. You were here 6 months ago as a backup crew member. Now you're here as a prime crew member. How are you feeling about your final preparations?
Well, we feel ready to go for the flight. Of course, 6 months ago it was a lot warmer than it is today in November, but we're all ready. We had a great last training session here. Our exams went well, and we're ready to go to Baikonur and launch.
How will you be spending your final week or so in Russia before you head down to Kazakhstan for your launch?
We have a few days off where we can pack our things and get ready to just get all of our administrative stuff done. And then in Baikonur we'll have a pretty busy time. We have 2 fit checks where we go out to the Soyuz vehicle and make sure everything's in order and that we understand exactly where all the equipment is, where everything's located. And then we'll have daily training of reviewing flight data file, checklists, that kind of thing. And then a few days of rest, and then we launch.
How would you compare this 2 weeks before your launch to 2 weeks before your space shuttle launch a few years ago?
This is really different than the space shuttle launch. Right now, we have a kind of a set time where you have time off to rest and get your stuff done. For the space shuttle flight, it seemed like we were busy training right up until the very last minute. But it was different. We were only gone for 2 weeks, whereas now we're gone for 6 months. We're actually moving to space, and so having a little bit of downtime is really a good thing to do.
Samantha Cristoforetti, International Space Station, Expedition 42 and 43 Flight Engineer.
It's a very special time. In a way, the word that comes to mind is that I feel just gratified. There's a sense of accomplishment that we have finished our training, we've done our exams, everything went well, and I just feel calm and in peace, and I'm looking forward to going to Baikonur. And then what I expect is that as we get closer and closer to launch, then there will be more of a feeling of exuberance and euphoria coming closer to the actual launch.
questo momento è una grande sensazione di gratificazione, di tranquillità, di calma, di serenità. Abbiamo finito gli esami, è finito tutto il periodo di addestramento, ormai siamo pronti e tra pochi giorni andremo a Baikonur. E poi mi immagino che avvicinandosi veramente agli ultimi giorni prima del lancio inizia ad esserci più emozione anche di esuberanza, di euforia, anche magari un po' di apprensione.
How would you describe your emotions from 6 months ago when you were here at Red Square as a backup crew member to now here for your own mission finally as you get closer to launch?
Well, the weather was quite different. When we were here in May, it was a nice spring day. Today, of course, the winter is approaching fast. It was also my first time, so I remember being really excited about discovering everything. Right now, I feel it more as a step towards the launch that is coming. You know, back then it was about discovering every single moment, every single aspect of all those traditions and preparations. Now it's really more like living them as part of our road to the launch pad. So it's a very different feeling about it. Quando sono venuta qui 6 mesi fa, intanto la meteo era molto diversa, era una bellissima giornata di primavera qui a Mosca. Oggi naturalmente si sente che l'inverno si sta avvicinando rapidamente. Era anche una situazione diversa, era la prima volta che partecipavamo a queste tradizioni, quindi per me si trattava veramente di osservare, di scoprire, di vivere appieno ogni piccolo momento. Adesso la vivo più come una tappa verso il lancio che si avvicina.